We've all had some interesting experiences with airline food, haven't we? Some love it, some hate it, but one thing is for sure, it's hard to forget. While the quality can differ greatly depending on the airline and cabin class, the preparation and cooking process is pretty much the same. In this video, we'll be delving into how food is prepared on an aircraft. Get ready for some fascinating insights. However, before we begin our video, we would greatly appreciate it if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel and also press the bell icon. Let's get started. Preparation on the ground. It's no secret that airline meals are prepared before takeoff, and this happens on the ground. The airlines have two options. They can either make the meals themselves, or they can hire a manufacturer to do it for them. Different countries have different ways of doing it, and there are loads of companies that offer this service. One of the biggest companies in the game is LSG Sky Chefs. According to an article by the Airline Passenger Experience Association, or apex.aero, LSG Sky Chefs at their Frankfurt location, which caters to several airlines, churns out a whopping 85,500 meals every day. That's a lot of grub. And get this, they even have the biggest dishwashing facility in Europe. While they do reuse their serving equipment, any uneaten food is chucked in the bin. Plane Food Factory. You might be surprised to know that airplane food is made to be reheated. Those ground facilities where they prepare the food will cook up a storm and pack a ton of meals. Depending on what kind of food it is, it might be cooled or frozen until it's time to reheat it on board. That usually happens within 10 hours of when it was made. They're pretty careful when they cook most meats. They're only partially cooked, and the reheating process finishes off the job. Things have changed a bit since the pandemic hit in 2020 though. Many airlines have shifted to simpler menus with fewer items. But some classic treats are making a comeback now that we're in a period of recovery. So whether you're craving a fancy 3-course meal or just want something simple like a sandwich, the Airplane Food Factory has got you covered. Loading on board. Getting the meals onto the plane is quite a process. First, the food has to be prepared at a nearby location, typically at the airport itself or very close by. However, the real challenge lies in getting all that food onto the plane. It's not as easy as it may seem. Think about it, with so many meals to load onto so many different flights, all within a tight time frame, it's no wonder this is such a huge logistical feat. It takes a lot of planning and coordination to make sure everything runs smoothly. Reheating during the flight. Once the chilled meals are on board the plane, the next step is to heat them up using special ovens on the aircraft. Each meal has its own set of instructions for reheating and preparation. For economy class meals, reheating is usually done right in the tray that's provided. But for more upscale meals and premium cabins, they might be heated in a tray and then transferred to another dish for serving. The ovens used on planes are pretty unique. They're called convection ovens, which means they use hot air to heat up the food. Unlike your microwave at home, there are no microwaves involved here, although some of the earlier Boeing 747 planes did have them on board. The meals are carefully placed on trays and then loaded into the oven. It takes around 20 minutes to heat up most meals, and they're served in batches to make sure everyone gets their hot food at the same time. Onboard chefs. When it comes to luxury flying, some airlines like to brag about having onboard chefs for their high-end business or first-class cabins. It's a pretty impressive sounding perk, but don't get too excited just yet. As a post on 1 Mile at a Time explains, these chefs are actually just flight attendants who have received special culinary training. They don't have a full kitchen on board the plane where they can cook up fresh meals from scratch. Instead, they have to work with the same ovens as everyone else. The only real difference is that these onboard chefs have access to a wider range of ingredients and options, so they can put together some fancier dishes than what's available at economy class. Some airlines even go as far as offering fresh eggs cooked on board, which is a nice touch. Bland tasting food? We've all heard people complain about how boring and flavorless airline food can be. But is it really fair to say that all airplane meals taste the same? To some extent, it makes sense that airlines would want to keep things simple when it comes to flavor. After all, they have to cater to a wide variety of passengers, many of whom might have different dietary restrictions or preferences. So it's not like they can go too wild with these spices or seasonings. But there's actually another factor at play here too, the cabin atmosphere. When you're up in the air, the cabin is pressurized and the humidity levels are pretty low. This can have a big impact on the way we perceive taste, especially when it comes to salt and sweetness. To make matters worse, food can dry out pretty quickly in such a dry environment. So airlines have to take special precautions to make sure their meals don't turn into a dry, flavorless mess. They carefully design and test each dish to ensure it stays moist and tasty, and they'll use modern convection ovens to help maintain the moisture level. And what about leftover food? Have you ever wondered what happens to all the uneaten food on airplanes? It turns out that in 2017, there were over 1 million tons of food waste from in-flight catering, according to research by the International Air Transport Association, or IATA. That's a pretty staggering amount of waste, especially when you consider that 20 to 25% of all cabin waste is unused food and drinks. Sadly, most airlines still default to sending leftover food to landfill, but there are some encouraging signs that things might be starting to change. Some nations and airlines are exploring programs to recycle or donate reusable food items, and there's a growing push to predict and optimize food loading so that less ends up going to waste in the first place. In fact, several airlines have launched innovative waste reduction initiatives in recent years. Ryanair, for example, has teamed up with Amazon Web Services to predict onboard demand more accurately. Austrian Airlines have started encouraging passengers to take unsold food home, while fellow Lufthansa group airline Swiss has started slashing the prices of unsold food to avoid waste. It's not just about being environmentally friendly either. Airlines are also losing an estimated $4 billion every year on untouched food and drink, so there's a clear financial incentive to address these issues. What do you think about airline food? Have you had any particularly good or bad experiences? Are there any airlines that stand out to you for the way they prepare their meals? Let us know your views in the comments section below, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more amazing aviation videos like this.